I don't even know how to start this. This game annoys the piss out of me. Yeah, I know that's spoiling the review, but there's just so much about this game I can't stand. I promised myself I'd be fair and subjective, though, so I might as well just man up and be professional about this. Lord knows I've tried before. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
Yes, it's the free market. We are doing that.
No, I can't read that. There's no words on it! What does that mean, Mesar's Plox? No, this time I'm going through with it. They've made a lot of changes to this game recently, so I figured it might be time to give it another shot, because no matter how much I despise this game, I really, really want to like it. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time to look at Maple Story. Developed by Wizit and published by Nexon, MapleStory is one of the most popular Korean MMOs, with a combined global player base of over 100 million players, 8 million of which reside in the North American servers, which are ironically referred to as MapleStory Global. The story of MapleStory is passable. There's some overarching thing about a dark wizard and some knights, and I don't think anyone really cares. The story's so hidden that you'll be hard-pressed to find yourself caring, and the game treats you as a player, not a character, with plenty of fourth wall breaking. It's not an immersive title in the least. Released in Korea back in 2003, the game spread outward from there before finally arriving on US soil in 2005, with this baffling set of commercials.
Hey, what are you doing?
What?
Is that pig wearing a gentleman's hat?
Yeah, so?
What's up with that?
Because wearing a gentleman's hat is free.
That's just like MapleStory. The free online game where you get to hang out with friends and experience the out of the ordinary.
That's right.
Go play at MapleStory.com for free. Rated E10 for ages 10 and up.
Each commercial followed the same formula of having someone catch random people doing nonsensical shit, being told they were doing so because it was free, and the observer comparing it to MapleStory and closing with an animal talking in a mildly racist accent. Scarily enough, the commercials bared some semblance of sanity, considering each one did have some connection to the oddball nature of the game. So if that's not enough of a clue as to what you're in for, I don't know what is. Granted, I should be fair. It's been a long while since I did last play this game. There's been a good number of physical changes made to the game in the last year, too. An expansion, or an event referred to as the Big Bang, actually reshaped the face of the world. It sounds awfully familiar. Where have I heard that before? Anyway, hopefully these changes have actually alleviated some of the issues I had with the game last time I've played it, so let's get to it. Okay, time I point out the obvious. Unlike many MMO games out there, MapleStory is entirely two-dimensional. Unlike a few other free-to-play MMOs that have 2D sprites, or an isometric background where you can travel in multiple directions, MapleStory is entirely 2D and controls like a platformer. The graphics seem to take advantage of this, as the backgrounds and platforms are very well illustrated, and the game is like playing through a living painting. Imagine a well-drawn 2D title on a current-gen console system, and you can imagine the kind of detail put into this world. Which is why the sprite work is so jarringly awful by proxy. The characters and NPCs are your typical large-head, small-bodied chibi characters, but that's really not the issue. When compared to the background's colorful painting-like qualities and the platform's heavy detail, the sprites look like flat, lifeless dolls crudely pasted on top. In a purely exaggerated sense, it's like seeing a Van Gogh painting and having someone draw stick figures all over it. The sprite color palette is extremely limited, the sprite itself is heavily pixelated, and the limited frames of animation given to them is outright laughable. We're talking 3 frames for walking, 2 for attacking, 1 to jump. However, I don't want to completely rag on this, seeing as it was probably a design necessity. The game chugs along enough when you have this many people on screen, so having well-animated, detailed character sprites would make it that much worse. Still pretty damn jarring, though. Enemy sprites suffer from this too, but in differing quantity, and larger enemies do get pretty interesting and detailed. Speaking of pixels, the game is only available in 2 resolutions, 1024 by 768 or 800 by 600. Oddly enough, they actually just show you more of the viewing area and don't really crisp up the game's design as a whole. Most of the clips you'll see are in 800 by 600 mode, mostly because Fraps hates me. For the most part, just like the other 2 games I featured on MMO Grinder, this game is really high in the cuteness factor. Man, I really need to break out of this cycle. So, you want to hear one of the few complaints I don't have about this game? Here goes. The music is phenomenal. Seriously, this is some of the best music I've heard in any MMO. I'm not even sure why. It's all very well composed and atmospheric. Even some of the more off-sounding tracks still sound like they belong in the areas you'll find them in. There's a good chance you'll get many of these songs stuck in your head long after you stop playing. It's a rather varied soundtrack, too. Take a listen to these few clips and tell me if you can even believe they're from the same game. Okay, a bit less impressive as the game sounds. While it's a good backup to the cartoony visuals, a lot of sounds get repetitive fast. There's a small hopping noise that plays every time you jump, and certain enemies make a high-pitched squeaking noise when killed. All items, when hitting the ground, make it sound like you dropped your keys. On the plus side, the sound is in short bursts, but in crowded areas it will get noisy. There's a volume slider just in case things get too grating, though. Hope you like redundancy. Starting out in this game is a pain in the dick! First off, due to the rampant hacking that occurred and probably still occurs in-game, Nexon does its best to keep people from doing so, and one odd choice is to have the game launch only from their website. You have to log into their website before you can hit the Launch Game button from that website, which will load the hack guards and then launch the game. Once the actual game opens, you'll possibly have to log in again and then be taken to the server list. There are a lot of servers in this game, too. Choose the one you want, or the one suggested to you, and then choose a channel. Each channel contains a bar letting you know of the channel's population, so you'll know how clogged up a certain channel will be before you enter. You can switch channels in the game at nearly any time, but once you create a character on a certain server, they're there forever unless you pay for a transfer. After that, you can create your character. You'll see a rather complex-looking list of starter classes, each with their own set of stats. To break it down simpler, your basic class are the Explorers, who start out as the newbie class called Beginners, and are able to advance to a new job set depending on how they spread out their stats and for which city they first visit and level 10 for their job advancements. They follow basic MMO class standards to an extent. There's the Warrior class that can specialize in certain weapon and armor sets as they advance. The Rogues, aka Thieves, who can focus on either knife and stealth skills or shuriken and throwing knife skills. Archers can choose between wielding bows or crossbows, and Magicians can choose between different magic disciplines such as fire, ice, or healing. There's also a more unorthodox class of Pirate, who have the option of being punch-happy shape-shifting brawlers or pistol-toting gunslingers. The rest of the starter classes all follow this basic formula, to an extent. The Explorer Dual Blade class are rogues with a fast two-sword fighting style, where you're forced to train as a thief and do side quests until you reach level 20, where you're upgraded to Murder in a Cup. Choosing Resistance will place you in a separate starting area with its own story and allow you to choose from 3 new classes. Battle Mages, an odd combination of melee and magician, Wild Hunters, crossbowmen mounted on wild animals, and finally Mechanics, gunslingers who pilot walking robot tanks. Choosing Cygnus Knights will be similar to Resistance, but you'll be able to choose between 5 elemental versions of the basic Explorer classes once you reach job advancement. Lastly, there are 2 hero classes that take you through the story of an individual character regardless of what you name yourself. There's Aaron, a polearm-wielding warrior with a combo-based playstyle and special moves, and Evan, a dragon master with magician-like playstyle. While Explorers are the most basic, I'd say they're the most difficult class to start with, but have the highest potential variety. The dragon-wielding Evans might seem tempting to a newcomer, but the class is one of the hardest to play, since they seriously lack skill variety early on and are generally weak when starting out. Aaron's, on the other hand, are easy mode once you reach level 10. Mashing attack with that class will get you everywhere. They're ideal for people who have no clue what they're doing and still want to look like a badass. If you find the Explorer classes too hard to start with, but still want some classes to choose from, give either Cygnus Knights or Resistance a whirl. My personal favorites are the Resistance classes, as each one brings an entirely unique spin to an existing formula, and their quests are well constructed, and dare I say, interesting. Once you've decided on a starter class, you'll be able to customize your character's look, clothing, and gender, including a starting weapon. Keep in mind, these starter weapons and armor are just for show, and you'll come across a better equipment piece very early on. Now decide on a name. Good luck with this. Every server across global MapleStory can only have one character with a certain name. Unlike Warcraft, where there can be several dozen versions of Pwn Sauce across the game's various servers, there can be only one here. You'll find pretty much all of your intended names are taken. The game does let you use numbers, so you'll immediately see the reason the game is filled with so many leet-speak names and characters named Goku 117826. Now, if you think you're ready to start the game, you're still wrong. One final step is to create a 6-digit PIN to be entered every time you log in with a character. Nexon is pretty serious with its security. Now that you've finally entered the game, no matter which class you've picked, you'll be taken to the beginner area that will walk you through the controls. This game is very much a platformer, so getting used to moving on a 2D plane is essential to understanding how this game works. The gameplay is most similar to a Metroidvania-style game, with large rooms to move across and usually teeming with enemies. Unlike most MMO games, the keyboard layout is entirely different from the standard WASD key and mouse combination most often seen in PC games. Instead, the arrow keys move your character left and right, up ladders and ropes, or ducking down. You can also press up to enter most doors and portals. You then have jumping assigned to the Alt key and attacking assigned to the Control key. When you progress into getting different skills, you can assign them to the delegated quick key boxes of Insert, Home, Page Up and Down, etc., or even place usable items there for quick potion access. The mouse is used mostly to interact with pop-up windows, NPC characters, and clickable areas. A nice touch is that your button assignments are not set in stone. You can map the keyboard practically any way you want using the key settings option. Still, playing the game with a keyboard can get pretty painful for a long time, especially with the type of gameplay involved. Thankfully, there's now another play option. And it gives me use for my Xbox controller again. Yes, they've finally implemented joypad support. If you have any PC-compatible joypad, you can choose it from the joypad settings in the system menu and assign the controller buttons to attacking, jumping, and picking up items, as well as any additional buttons to the quick slot hotkeys. This suits the gameplay a lot better, and it's not as tiring as the keyboard layout, and makes the game's twitchy physics a bit easier to deal with, but not by much. Looting in this game is an odd system. Once you kill an enemy, there's a chance it will drop a random item or amount of money. In order to retrieve it, you'll have to hit Z by default. You'll notice a lot of players leaving large amounts of junk and money all over the playing field, often obscuring the view of enemies. Loot distribution is wonky, too. The general idea is that whoever did the most damage to the enemy gets the option to loot it, and anyone else would have to wait a certain period of time before they can pick it up. You can also immediately pick up any items that other players have dropped. This system gets wonky when an item dropped by a monster you killed won't respond to you picking it up as if you're not allowed to loot it. It's quite annoying. There's really no monster AI in this game, from what I can tell. For the most part, monsters simply wander around at random, and possibly give chase only after you've attacked them, making it seem less like you're dealing with a looming threat and more like you're slaughtering an innocent population of animals. Another thing about the monsters in the game is that they are tightly packed in. You'll see dozens of them packed onto a platform. Starting out, it's extremely tough to fight large groups of enemies, especially if you're a beginner class, due to the fact that you can't attack more than one enemy at the same time unless you have an AoE skill. This comes in even worse if you find that monsters appear less and less in a certain area, only to find that they've all spawned and tightly packed onto a certain area of the map. Another gameplay issue is the targeting system, or lack thereof. Your character will automatically attack the creature closest to them, and while this might not be a big issue for melee classes, bowmen and shuriken-throwing thieves need a bit of distance as their melee strikes are absolutely useless. So when you want to finish off an enemy with barely a hit point of damage left, but another manages to sneak closer to you, it lets both enemies get a good hit off of you. It's this very system that will make you shriek with rage when you have to fight the bats in the subway as a ranged class. Platforming is a big part of the game, but jumping physics are so horrid that it provides more challenge than necessary. When playing, you'll find jumping in this game to be rather stiff and limited, and the game's ledge detection seems very off. It's often hard to figure out what can be climbed or jumped onto. You'll have a hell of a time trying to scale the tiny platforms and can I jump on this ledge backgrounds of Parian Mountains. Like some platformers, when you take damage, you tend to fly backward a bit, and if you can imagine, that makes the already stiff platforming even more frustrating. Toss in the fact that enemies spawn so fast that you might take damage while standing on nothing, only to see the enemy that apparently hit you now fade into existence. Leveling in this game used to be a complete pain in the ass, as the most effective method of gaining levels was hours of grinding. Quests took a backseat to grinding, and even when you came across a quest, they wanted a ridiculous amount of items or kills for a pretty inconsequential reward, almost as if the game was outright telling you to just kill hundreds of the same monster. Sometimes it literally was, with the Wanted poster quest requesting you kill 999 of something. The XP wasn't earned very quickly from grinding either, and many had guessed that Global MapleStory had purposefully lessened the amount of experience given in order to encourage people to purchase XP boosters from the cash shop. The official statement from Nexon's FAQ was that being level 20 in MapleStory meant a lot more than being level 20 in other MMOs, to which I thought, no. Luckily, the game realized this was pushing it a bit and added more quests, better rewards, and much, much better XP. The game takes it further by giving you recommended quests, which you can search for from the quest log, as well as highlight areas that will help you complete the quest. It's a very welcome update and makes leveling much smoother. In fact, the old method of levels and quests get a bit of hilarious in-game mockery during the errand starting quest, when your character complains about having to kill 50 of something, only to be threatened with having to kill 500 or 999 of them. In addition to the standard quest of killing monsters and collecting items, there's a few occasions where you'll come across what players refer to as a jump quest, where you'll be asked to reach a specific point on a pure platforming section, made of traps and oddly placed ledges, where falling or choosing the wrong portal can send you back to do the whole thing over again. If you think the game's aforementioned wonky jump physics make this sound like a keyboard-smashing nightmare, you are absolutely correct. Crafting has been recently added to the game, allowing you to create items and potions. It works like a basic MMO crafting system, but has a fatigue counter to keep you from gaining all your upgrades immediately, as the recipes are relatively simple to make. Travel in this game takes place from screen to screen. The map is thankfully upgraded to not only tell you how to get to places and what the name of the areas you're in, but also what monsters and NPCs dwell inside them. You can even use your quest log to highlight ideal areas to find monsters you need for your quest. While the Big Bang upgrade redid the way the first major island hub of the game looks, traveling on foot gets a bit annoying, so the game gives you a decent option of paying for taxis to quickly port you to the major cities, or purchasing scrolls to instantly teleport you to the city listed on it. The true issue lies when you need to travel outside the main island. A lesser example exists once you leave your training area. While Explorer classes are treated to a short cutscene before instantly arriving on the new island, Resistance and Errand classes must travel on a boat of sorts, which takes 2 minutes of endlessly looping footage to arrive. There are also instances where you're asked to travel back to that starting island to further your quests on the main one. You can also access another portion of the game by taking the world's slowest subway to New Leaf City, where you're forced to wait for it to arrive and then wait as it takes forever to leave the station. But that's nothing compared to when you need to travel to Orbis. When you arrive on the platform to take the ship, you'll be told the boat will depart at 15-minute intervals, and the trip will take a long while. This isn't 15 game minutes here, 1 minute is actually 10 seconds. It's 15 actual real-life minutes. So if you miss the short window to board the boat, you will have to wait roughly 15 minutes before your next chance to board. Once you're finally on board, you'll have to wait for the remaining amount of time before the boat actually takes off. They said it would be a long ride, and they aren't joking. Man, I love when games you play as a distraction from the mundanity of life require you find something to distract from the mundanity of the game itself. Put down the DS and wait a few minutes for it to beep. Fuck you, game. Oh no, I didn't catch the ball in the cup. Oh, wait a minute. It's okay, because the ball's on a string and attached to the cup. Fuck this, I'm going to bed.
You got to be fucking kidding me.
Okay, for those of you who don't get how hyperbole works, no, it doesn't take quite that long to get to Orbis, but the elapsed time of the trip in reality was 10 minutes. Yes, 10 solid, real-life minutes. If you thought that joke ran on way too long, well, now you know how I feel. And yes, you have to do this every single time you want to get back or forth from Victoria Island. For those good at math, that's a possible 25 minutes of time wasted just to get to the next logical area in the game. Do you have any idea how much shit you can do in 25 minutes? Need more BS? You might be wondering why I spent the entire time in the cargo hold of the ship when there's a nice open topside with a wonderful view of repeating cloud backgrounds. Well, here's why. Oh, and if you die on the boat, you have to do the trip all over again. Seriously, game, fuck you. Another decent place to visit around the level you'd want to travel to Orbis is a place called Ludibrium. Basically a giant Legoland. It has enemies around level 30 to 50 and decent purchasable equipment for that level. Of course, you'll need to visit Orbis Station to get there, where you'll— OH, FOR FUCK's SAKE! A trip to Lubriderm will take another possible 10-minute wait with a 5-minute ride. Still keeping score, that's 25 to 40 minutes of your life just to get to the next place you should be going to anyway. Never has the phrase, "I could take a shit and cook a gourmet meal by the time this is over," been so literal. Long story short, the game's got problems. I very much appreciate the improvements made to the game, but with the flaws mentioned, it would take a good, strong core of players to make you want to overlook them. Okay, imagine every dumb person you've ever met on the internet. Imagine every lazy forum poster, every terrible YouTube comment, every moronic, tactless twat with no regard to the enjoyment of things beyond their own, all got together and decided to play a game. MapleStory. Interacting with these people long enough will make you wish that the Earth would spontaneously catch fire, wiping off a better portion of the planet and humanity itself. Wait, I shouldn't say things like that. The planet might fire me. I'll be fair and say that not everyone in the game acts horribly. I've had a fair share of people actually just drop money and items for me without a single reason for it. But like any overly popular game, the jerks can far outweigh the decent people, souring the experience for anyone starting out. Just ask any newcomer to World of Warcraft. I'll get more into detail on their asshattery later, but for now, let's look into some community-based game aspects. First off, the game doesn't have instances, or raids, in the same sense that many other MMOs do. Your instance dungeons are replaced with party quests, or PQs in MapleSpeak. Party quests don't follow the normal instant rules of fight through elite enemies until you find the boss, repeat, but actually are more like short puzzles to solve. Each one is different to a degree, with one even giving you trivia questions you must find the answer to by collecting a number of tickets from killed enemies, or standing in certain patterns while the party leader clicks the NPC to see if you're all in the right spots. When you have a generally unresponsive party, or at least one or two members with the IQ of Driftwood, you can imagine how fun it is to explain what to do to people who aren't adept at following orders. One of the first party quests available to you is known as the Hennessy's Party Quest, and is now referred to as the Moon Bunny Quest. Let's take a look at some clips and see if you can tell what's going on.
What the hell was that?
Okay, for those of you who'd said that clearly what was happening here was that you're supposed to wait for the plants on the bottom ledge to appear and thwack them with your weapon until they either disappear or a seed drops, in which you or another party member takes the seed and drops it on one of the small platforms that circle a moon above, waiting for flowers to grow on all 6 circles until the moon becomes full and a bunny with a cooking pot shows up and starts making rice cakes. Then protect the bunny from attacking enemies until the party leader collects 20 cakes that you can give to the bear tiger standing off to the side, where you can exit the stage and enter a bonus area where you kill armor-wearing pigs for 5 minutes. Then you have either already played this game, or you are a lying sack of shit. No joking here, that's what they expect you to know. The game now comes with some more instruction on what to do, but it's still confusing. Did I mention the seeds used to be 6 different colors, and each color had to be placed on the correct, randomly selected platform or the flower wouldn't grow? Seriously, fuck this game. One major annoyance about party quests is that they are not instanced. In other words, you aren't teleported to a place where only you and your party members exist. If another party is on the quest on that channel, you can't go. Instead, you're given a message that another party is currently on the quest, and you'll be forced to click on the NPC rapidly in a vain attempt to beat out the several other parties waiting to get in, or channel hop with your entire party in the hopes to find a channel that isn't occupied. I was hoping this was no longer the case, so imagine my dismay when I found out it was still going on. It's been 8 years and they still haven't fixed this? Another place where you'll find a ton of people, usually at their worst, is the free market, a set-aside area of numerous platforms where players can set up their own shops or barter in the outside crowds. As you'd expect, this runs with all the quiet dignity of a floor of a stock exchange run by short-fused cocaine dealers. If you're looking at the free market on Channel 1, what you'll see is a clusterfuck of players and these speech bubbles flooding the screen with nigh indecipherable text splattered upon them. These are usually people looking to sell items they are currently carrying, but if you'd like to browse through a less obnoxious group of players, you can enter any one of the portals scattered around the area, provided you can find one. Enter the portal and find a group of platforms usually crowded with player stores. Each store can be accessed by clicking on the store block itself, where you can view the listed prices or purchase what you want. There's even a chat block where if you want to leave angry messages to the player about their prices. Player stores come in the form of hired merchants or will be staffed by the players themselves, and each are available to purchase in the cash shop. Since I previously mentioned how hard it is to understand players in the free market, I think this is a good time to define some of the jargon used in this game. See, unlike games like Luna, where the chat filter makes it impossible to talk normally, Maple's chat filter is very lax, only blanking out words. Even a few I thought would have been removed managed to stay in. Still, a lot of people in this game love to use text speak and leet. Similar to how leet evolved from hackers attempting to circumvent chat filters, yet taken by the immature to be a cool way to type, the players in this game talk weird simply because everyone else does. Let's take a look at some of the common phrases you'll see in the game. The free market will be littered with B or S followed by a bunch of greater than signs, usually followed by the name of something and a few dozen at signs. The B stands for buying, the S for selling, the name is the item they have up for barter, and the at signs are because people are jerks. They're there to push the message up higher so it can be seen above all of the messages, oftentimes blocking out other people's messages. CC Pliz. When you run across this message, it'll usually be while you're out questing or grinding, and a lone character or small party might be running around in the area killing everything in sight. And when they come across you, they spam the phrase CC Pliz every time you pass. It's also possible you'll see the same from people who show up after you've already been in that area for a while. If you're new to the game like I was when first seeing this, you'll wonder just what the hell everyone is prattling on about. Well, CC stands for Change Channel, and the Pliz is obviously a shortened and much more insincere version of Please. What you're basically being commanded to do is leave that map so they can kill things on their own without anyone else around. It's considered a pretty douchey thing to say to other people, as it's the MapleStory equivalent of telling people to fuck off. You can choose to obey, as sometimes it's better to have a clear map, or ignore them, in which they'll either change channel on their own, or be a total dick and kill everything you're trying to kill before you're able to. Mesar's Plox. Often seen in cities and free markets, but it's a good chance you'll see it in the regular areas too. Normally, a poorly equipped or completely unequipped player will hop around a town, open a chat window, or just spam the phrase Mesar's Plox like it makes sense. What they're actually saying is Mesos please, and in essence they are panhandling. Mesos are the in-game currency, and beggars are nothing new to the MMO world. As for how Mesos became Mesars, I've no idea, but please to Plox is a pretty storied history. Please is often text speak shortened to PLS or PLZ to accentuate the Z sound of please. Of course, in this typo-ridden internet, the fact that the Z and X are adjacent on the keyboard, sometimes PLZ would come out as PLX. Some people thought it'd be funny or cool to spell PLX or Plix phonetically and typed it PLIX. But once again, our typo-ridden internet and the fact that I and O are adjacent on the keyboard turned PLIX into PLOX or Plox, and
God, this is fucking stupid!
the worst part? I'd swear Nexon encouraged this kind of crap. Maybe not so much encouraged as allowed in ignorance. I really wish I could find this to prove it existed, but there was once an image ad that I saw on the side of a website that said something like odd behavior, speech impediments, showing things like the players acting annoying or talking in text speak, followed by catch the fever at maplestory.com. It was a pretty accurate description of the Maple community. It's a fucking disease. I imagine a young couple of parents who believe in free expression watching their child wiping their own feces on a public swing set and giggling vapidly about how quaint the youth of today is. I don't care if you think they're having fun, they're ruining things for everyone else. Get off your ass and do something! I think a lot of this issue stems from the intended age range of the game. It's pretty much swarming with 10-year-olds and tweens. I can't say I don't expect this, but even with the cute-based graphics of Luna and Pangea, the game is much more simpler to grasp the concept of, despite the marketing being focused on a more teenage demographic. Lord help you if you're a teenager or older playing this game. I once ran across a group of players that was belittling and mocking another player. What for? They found out that that person was, in their mind, way too old to be playing this game. How old? 16. This is the Logan's Run of MMOs. While many a Warcraft dispute could be solved by duel requesting to smack the hell out of them, MapleStory until recently had no PvP system. Players resort to ineffectively swatting the air near your player, jumping near you randomly while shouting insults, or rapidly ducking down behind you in an attempt to simulate sex in the mind of someone who still thinks penis is a curse word. The PvP system recently implemented is done in an arena style and features 4 modes of play: free-for-all rumbles, team-based matches like red versus blue fights or capture the flag, and finally Ice Knight, where one player is granted superpowers by transforming into a large and powerful Ice Knight, while the remaining players try to bring them down. I happen to like the PvP arena for a good grinding distraction, but the level groups are entirely too vast, meaning you're toast if you go in at anything less than level 50. I've said it before, decent people and great communities exist within this game, but good luck. I've talked far too long about gameplay and community, so I'll keep Cash Shop a bit brief. You'll be in there regardless, because deep down in places Nexon doesn't talk about at parties, they want you in that Cash Shop. They need you in that Cash Shop. Hell, the fact that I refer to these things as Cash Shops, regardless of what the game I'm playing currently calls it, it's pretty much MapleStory's fault, but why not? It's a good term. This is one of the few games I've played where not only is a cash shop included in the game interface, it doesn't fully interrupt gameplay, and there's actually a quest or two that asks you to go into the cash shop to find an item to purchase, with in-game mesos, forcing you to browse through the selection. It's so integral to the game it even has its own theme song. You're listening to it right now. What you'll notice at first is a sheer amount of convenience items in there. You want to sell items in the free market? Cash shop. You want to travel anywhere without having to wait for a 10-minute boat ride? Cash shop. You want a vanity pet to follow you around? Cash shop. You want that pet to pick up mesos, items, or both? Cash shop. You want your pig to wear a gentleman's hat? Cash shop.
Because wearing a gentleman's hat is free.
Other items of major popularity include things that alter your appearance, such as haircut and plastic surgery vouchers, which allow you to alter your face, hairstyle, or hair color beyond the ones given to you at the start. The major issue here is that certain hairstyles or faces can only be found in certain salons, so if there's a certain haircut you want, you might have to travel to FUCK! Other items include costumes that overwrite the appearance of your current equipment, so it doesn't matter if you're wearing a pirate hat, iron helmet, or severed head of a demonic lion donkey, you can look like you're wearing a fedora, rainbow afro, or even choose the invisible hat just to show your head with no helmet at all. This is the only game I've played where you have to pay for the hide helm option. Costume pieces, like nearly every cash shop item in the game, have rental properties where they expire after a certain period of time, forcing you to purchase them all over again. Costumes usually have a much more manageable 90-day limit, but are essentially useless beyond the flashiness and impressing 8-year-olds. Thankfully, any face or hair changes made with the coupons, while still entirely cosmetic, are permanent. Convenience items have a much shorter use time, sometimes as low as a single day, all depending on the type or price of the item you pick, so read carefully. Also, don't bother with the mounts you see, since they're only cosmetic items that change the appearance of your existing mount. If you don't have a mount, you won't receive one by purchasing them. In order to shop in the cash shop, you'll need to purchase NX, which exchange for about 1,000 points per dollar. They can only be purchased in increments of $5, $10, $30, or $100, but there's also Nexon cards you can purchase that come in alternate denominations. All NX points can be used in any Nexon published game. Unlike some other games, there are so many options that I couldn't possibly tell you what is and isn't a good purchase. There's practically an item for everything in the game, so take your time and decide if what you purchase is right for you. Just be extra careful to read the text on how the item works and how long it will last. I know I've been ragging on this game pretty hard, but it just has so many problems that it doesn't seem to want to address. It's popular enough, but I'm not even sure why I want to keep playing it. I have to give some serious kudos to Nexon for changing a lot of what was wrong with the game and cracking a bit down more on hackers and spammers, but there's still so much to improve. Here's my final rate. Despite my ragging on it, at least MapleStory is doing something different. A 2D platforming MMO isn't something you see every day in this WoW clone-infested world. The simple gameplay will be great for people new to MMOs, and it's a great way to get them in that style of play. Once again, it's another cute style game that is generally pretty nice to look at and doesn't take much to run on many PCs. Chances are if you stick with this game, you'll want something from the shop. Make sure to read what the item does carefully and look into how it works before you purchase it. I'm not a fan of so many cosmetic items being rentals, but at least they give you a good amount of time with them. Be sure to remember how long your item will last. This game is swarming with gameplay frustrations and bugs that more experienced game players will notice almost immediately. It would be easy to overlook this with a good player base, but sadly, many common players are beyond obnoxious, and it's a good chance someone's attitude will push you over the edge into quitting. The players of this game are so infamous that other Nexon game players are known to refer to annoying players in their games as maple tards. Seek out the good players if you want to find some sort of solace. There's a lot of grinding to do, even with that new quest system in place, so if that's something you hate, this game won't make you like it. Finally, again, like the last two games I mentioned, it's another cutesy game, so if you're too manly for hopping, smiling mushrooms, steer clear. Next time I'll be... Oh, wait, I don't have anything planned for the future. My trifecta's complete. Well, this is where you come in. While there are many, many MMOs I could be looking at, I want to hear suggestions from you. If you have any ideas, questions, or feedback, write them in the comments of wherever you happen to be seeing this video, or message either at ChaosD1 or at MMOGrinder on Twitter. Remember, this series takes a long time to work with, so I'll try to shoot for a 2-week or at the very least monthly schedule, depending on the amount of technical and real-life hiccups I come across. I hope to hear about some of your favorite or least favorite games. Just don't expect me to agree with you. This is the YouTube channel of Brian Schmoyer, aka Cirrus Epics. Ages ago, when I was still planning on making this series, I was searching around YouTube to see if someone did it first and did it better. This guy was about the best out there. While his show was fairly short and simple, he had interesting flash animations to accompany them. He then stopped the series and made a video about the overall futility of gaming in general, causing some major backlash from people, but that's neither here nor there. He was most famous for making MapleStory-based flash animations that poked fun at the game's quirks, issues, and community. Besides the obvious reasons of him doing a MapleStory video, as well as having an MMO show, why bring this up? Well, earlier this year, Nexon themselves contacted him to make an online animated series specifically for them that would highlight proper behavior in the game. Perhaps even Nexon is fed up with the amount of jerks infesting its game, and it's nice to see Brian bringing his style of humor into these videos. If interested, head on over to MapleStory's YouTube channel and watch episodes of New Leaf Saga. Hopefully it's enough to get the more unruly players of the game to change their ways. I see it's working already.